The echo of 1,000 swords on marble lingered like the hushed memory of an execution. Even after the king's guard swept the last of the small folk from the gallery of faces, torch smoke drifted through vaulted arches, blurring pillars shaped like dragons' spines, casting columns of amber light across the iron throne. Ned Stark stood beneath that grotesque mass of blades, every sense bristling. Somewhere in the stillness, he tasted the metallic sting of destiny, half blood, half guilt, pooling on his tongue. Only minutes ago, Lord Baelish's cell's words had scattered before his men, yet the victory felt thin, as brittle as frost on autumn leaves. The game, he realized, had never been about blades. Footfalls approached, measured, brazen, loud enough to announce royalty yet light enough to promise danger. Jaime Lannister strode through the golden haze, enamel plates glimmering. The Lion of Lannister looked cut from the same molten ore that forged the throne, all gold and menace. He paused precisely 2 sword lengths away, helm tucked under one arm, the other hand resting upon his lion-headed pommel. Sun-dappled motes drifted between them. Ned's own guard shifted, uneasy. These men were Northmen, raw and broad-shouldered, but every one of them had seen what Jaime's rapier grace could do. Ned braced for venom, some jape about honor, some polished threat. But Jaime inclined his head, a single deliberate nod, as if they were tourney knights sharing wine after tilting. "Stark," he said. No sneer, no swagger. Just the name, spoken like a seal, in wax. "My lord." Ned flexed his sword arm. Ice weight steadied his racing thoughts. He counted 6 Kingsguard in the periphery, ghost pale in white enamel, each frozen mid-stride. More would come. Queen Cersei would come. Time dripped faster now. Jaime's gaze slid to the butchered corpses of gold cloaks, their bodies stacked by the doors like discarded tabards. "You know how this ends," he murmured, softly enough that echoes swallowed the words. "I draw steel, you draw steel, and in 3 heartbeats the throne room drinks more blood than Harrenhal stones. But do you understand what ends with that?" Ned lifted a brow. "You tell me." "A realm," Jaime answered. "Not mine, not yours. Ours, if we're clever." Then, startlingly gentle, "Lord Stark, my father marches with 40,000 toward Riverrun. Renley rides for Highgarden, Stannis for Dragonstone, and Robert's corpse cools as fast as his alliances. The spider spins, the little dog yelps, but none of them truly see the hour. I do." He released a slow breath. "And I'm weary of the taste of ash." Ned's jaw tightened. "Your queen poisoned the very heart of the realm." "Did she?" Jaime lifted his chin, eyes glinting green gold. "Or did the realm rot long before my sister pricked it? Your friend Robert hunted stags and drank himself blind while wolves and lions snarled in his council. Tell me, Stark, how many innocents hang upon the whim of a king? Would you gamble them all for one more righteous stand?" "Men." It was a challenge wrapped in confession. Ned sensed the moment pivoting, some unseen tide dragging them both from shore. He pictured Sansa and Arya, parted like ships in a fog. He pictured Winterfell's hearthlight, Robb's prideful smile, Catelyn's steadfast gaze. He smelled pine on a winter road, and he understood the price of stubborn honor. "What are you asking?" Ned's voice sounded strange to his own ears. Jaime looked up at the Iron Throne, its knives curving like the phantoms of conquered kings. "That you sheath your sword now, just once, damn the songs, and walk out of this hall beside me. I will keep your life, your daughter's life, and the lives of every man wearing the direwolf. In return, you will bear witness that Joffrey is Robert's heir long enough for the realm to breathe." His eyes narrowed. "And you will help me save it from the worst of my family, and yours." A hush settled. In distant corridors, armor clanged, though the sound seemed worlds away. Ned weighed ice-cold iron against the pulsing warmth of his heartbeat. "You'd betray your queen?" "I would expose a rot," Jaime corrected. "Cersei's pride gnaws at our house no less than at yours. My father can't see it, but I can. I slew a mad king once to spare 1,000,000. Perhaps I'll spare 1,000,000 more by unmasking a mad queen. Ned thought of wildfire caches beneath the city. Rumors had reached even Winterfell's lips. He had no proof, only Varys whispers, but he felt the truth in Jaime's impassive stare. You ask that I trust the Kingslayer. I ask that you trust the man who will shield you this day. Jaime's palm left his sword. The gesture echoed like thunder. Then, deft and swift, he pivoted and shouted toward his retinue. Stand down. Startled gasps. 6 white cloaks hesitated. Years of drilled obedience warred with disbelief. With a flick of his hand, Jaime removed the lion-headed brooch fastening his gorget, tossed it to the marble. It rang like a coin dropped into a quiet well. Today, I am no Kingsguard. Today, I am only Jaime, son of Tywin, sword sworn to the living, not the dead. Then thou. The surrender felt seismic. Ned's guard traded bewildered looks. In that heartbeat, a future unspooled. A tenuous braid of peace or vengeance, depending on whether duty or mercy broke first. Ned Stark sheathed ice. Metal rasped. The sound rasped against the air like a torn veil. He heard Northmen curse under their breath. He heard the mothers of the realm stir in his mind, thanking gods he barely prayed to. And across from him, Jaime's shoulders loosened, as though steel plates weighed less than his sigh. Very well, Ned said, voice low. You have my hand for as long as your honor outweighs your title. Jaime's grin flashed, quicksilver bright. Then, let us begin rewriting this accursed psalm. Cersei Lannister reclined in Maegor's solar, rim of her wine goblet glowing ruby in sunset light. Ser Boros knelt before her, white hood clutched to his sweating brow. The tale spilled from him like sour ale, the butchered gold cloaks, the shield Jaime placed between Ned's heart and Lannister vengeance. The Link's quick alliance formed under the shadow of the Iron Throne. When he finished, silence consumed the room. Cersei's laughter, when it came, was not soft. It cracked glass. My brother thinks himself a hero again. Churning the goblet so light painted crimson rings upon the table. How quaint. Ser Boros swallowed. Your Grace, he defied your orders. Did he? Cersei rose, skirts whispering. In the mirror of polished obsidian, she saw her reflection split by candlelight. One half a queen in silk, the other a mother whose cubs prowled too near the edge of a snare. No. Boros. Jaime has merely forgotten who he is. And forgetting oneself is forgivable. Her nails drummed the goblet. But teaching the realm to forget the lions, never. She paced to the balcony. King's Landing unfurled below, rooftops tiled red like dragon scale. The black water gleaming. Bells tolled somewhere. News of Robert's passing had reached Sept Baelor, and morning hymns drifted on the humid breeze. Cersei inhaled sorrow like perfume. Send word to my father, she said, not turning. Tell him his son has grown fond of wolf pelts. Tell him the pack gathers around my throne. He will know what must be done. She sipped, staining lips blood red. And fetched Joffrey. It's time he learned to rip out a wolf's throat. The wind off Blackwater Bay carried the salty tang of sea rot over the mud gate as Ned's entourage followed Jaime through the streetways. Armor clanked. Small folk peeked from alleys like mice testing a new cat. Against the dusk, torchfires glimmered upon the enamel of Ned's guards. But the true fire burned in their eyes. Confusion, distrust, hope. Ned could not silence the thunder in his chest. He had ridden into battle more times than he cared to count. Each bore the same dread anticipation. Yet this was stranger. He had allied with a man he blamed for Brandon's death, for the fall of Winterfell's best to Mad King's cruelty. He reminded himself that duty to the realm would ask harsher prices still. At the stables beneath the Red Keep's eastern spur, Jaime dismissed the sworn swords, leaving only 2 Lannister outriders. He spoke quietly to the stablemaster, a gray-haired groom who bowed deeper than protocol. 2 nimble palfreys and a pair of coursers were saddled, while the sun bled purple across the parapets. Ned approached. You're fleeing, he observed. Not fleeing, Jaime corrected, tightening his gauntlets. Maneuvering. Cersei will strike swift once father rides south. We must collect allies faster. And who do you trust to defy Tywin? The one man my father cannot bully with coin or fear. Jaime swung onto his mount. Renley Baratheon may fancy jousts and jesters, but he understands speeds of ravens and hearts of men. With Storm's End at our flank, we pivot the board. Ned mounted Iceflower, a lean gray mare given by Robert many years ago. If Renley refuses, then we sharpen other blades. Jaime's smile walked a razor's edge. But he won't. They rode into the falling night, banners wrapped, torches low. Wolves and lions galloped shoulder to shoulder through the shadows of King's Landing, united not by loyalty, but by desperation. In the Tower of the Hand, Sansa Stark clutched a candle until wax blistered her palm. Septa Mordane slept fitfully nearby, yet the corridor beyond the antechamber thrummed with unrest. She heard whispers of her father's flight, of her betrothed prince smashing mirrors in fury, of the queen's eyes turning to daggers when she spoke of Starks and traitors. Sansa prayed to maiden, mother, and stranger, yet each silent moment wound the noose of dread tighter. A soft scratching at the window drew her to the sill. A raven, black as the shadows pooling across the courtyard. It bore a strip of parchment no longer than her thumb. Fear chilled her, but she untied the ribbon. Sansa, be brave. Keep Arya close. Obey no summons but my own or Sir Barristan's. I ride to mend the realm, yet must leave behind what I love most. Guard your heart, my little bird. Father. Her breath caught. The candle flickered, painting crimson tears down her wrist. She pressed the note to her chest and, for the first time since they left Winterfell, wished that songs told fewer lies about valor. She whispered a promise to the dark. She would be worthy of her father's trust. She would survive. Outside the walls, the moon rose, carving argent paths upon the river of tears. And the game began anew. They reached the King's Road by dawn. Frost silvered the grass, though summer lingered in the cracked earth. Ned rode in contemplative silence, counting each mile marker like a bead upon a rosary. Jaime, by contrast, hummed some Westerland's ballad, voice soft enough to fade beneath hoofbeats. What will your sister do when she learns you ride with me? Ned finally asked. Jaime shrugged. Send songs of my treason to every corner of the realm. She'll paint me a villain, a rogue lion led astray by northern witchcraft. But lions do not mew, Lord Stark. They roar, and father listens to roars. I know Tywin Lannister's kind of roar. Do you? Jaime's tone sharpened. Hell march. He'll burn Riverlands and bury Tully sigils beneath red banner cloth. But he will not raise his sword against his heir on word alone. He'll seek me out first, for counsel, for truth, perhaps for my head. A dark chuckle. I intend to give him something else entirely. They passed a field where small folk gathered fallen branches for kindling. Children waved. Jaime tossed copper pennies, laughing when their eyes widened. Ned found himself studying the Kingslayer's easy grace, the way sunlight glinted off hair that any bard would call spun gold. There was charm beneath the arrogance, an impish warmth that might have blossomed in another life, had vows and pride not twisted it. Why did you truly do it at King's Landing those years ago? Ned asked, words slipping free before caution could restrain them. Why kill Aerys? Jaime's reins tightened. For a heartbeat, only wind answered. Then quietly, because he planned to burn them all. Wildfire beneath the city, pyromancers at every gate. He'd rather rule ash than kneel before Robert. His jaw worked. I begged my father to end it. He refused. I begged Rhaegar's counsel. Too late. So I slit a king's throat and watched the blood pool between blades he called his throne. His gaze flicked to Ned. Would you have done less? Ned recalled his father's cries echoing in the Mad King's hall. He recalled Brandon's choking gasp through a burning chain. He answered honestly. No, I would have done the same. For the first time, respect, not grudging but quiet, passed between them. 3 days south of King's Landing, an orange sun climbed over the ruins of Summerhall where long-dead dragons had birthed flame. Jaime guided them into the shattered shell of the old palace, to rest waterskins and feed mounts. Swifts nested in broken rafters. Lizards sunned on cracked marble. A hush hung about the ruins, the sorrow of lost kings. Ned walked corridors stained by ghosts, boots crunching over scorched tile. He paused before a burnt doorway half swallowed by ivy. Through it, he glimpsed a once grand audience chamber. Columns collapsed, thrones melted. He felt history breathe. Jaime joined him, handing a skin of Dornish red. "You know the tale?" he asked. "Prince Duncan's folly. A wood switch, a vow, and a wildfire wedding feast." Ned sipped, wincing at the wine's bite. "Prophecy can light strange fires." Jaime's smile flickered. "Perhaps we stand in another such moment." He took the skin, drinking long. "Tell me, Stark, if this pact holds, if wolves and lions share one hunt, what shape does the realm take?" Ned considered. "First, children must not pay for their parents' wars. Sansa weds Joffrey, but Arya weds no one against her will. My girls return north each summer. Second, the Riverlands burn no further. Your father must recall his men once the king's death is confirmed, legitimate, and regents named. Third, the Vale remains neutral." He exhaled. "And perhaps the north may relax its guard against every southern whisper." Jaime's eyes gleamed. "And for my house? Your father's debts are vast. The crown enjoys his coin. Let the realm guarantee repayment at lesser interest. Let him keep Harrenhal for his pains, if he restores each scorched village at his expense." Ned's tone hardened. "And let Cersei step aside for a regency council until the boy turns 16. She may retain her title. Queen Mother, not Queen Regnant." Jaime whistled. "You drive a direwolf's bargain, yet not impossible." He looked around the blackened hall. Wildfires can be quenched, even those sparked by prophecy. They clasped forearms, warriors' grip forged in wary trust, and for a sliver of dawn, Summerhall knew peace. South winds carried them towards Bitterbridge, where Renly's army staged beneath green banners. Word of Robert's death spread like flame on harvest stubble. Lords vied for position. Ravens flew from rookery to rookery, and sellswards marched for whichever lord first produced coin. At the encampment perimeter, the Baratheon stags on grass green snapped in the breeze. The air smelled of sweet wine and cut grass. Renly's camps never stank of latrines like Robert's. Ned found himself absurdly grateful. Sir Loras Tyrell intercepted them astride a white stallion, silver armor etched with golden lilies. Recognition flickered. The Knight of Flowers bowed to no one but Renly, yet he reined in and bowed to Ned. "Lord Stark." "Sir Jaime." He tilted his head. "You bring interesting company." "So may your lord," Jaime quipped. They followed Loras through ranks of Stormlander spearmen and Tyrell longbowmen. Tents rose like vibrant blooms, each pennon marked by a lord. Estermont turtles, swan-white swans, Tarth's azure-quartered sunburst. Loras halted before a pavilion large enough to house a sept. 2 rainbow guards flanked its embroidered flaps. Inside, Renly Baratheon lounged on a cushioned dais, green velvet doublet unbuttoned at the collar. His black hair curled boyishly despite a beard too carefully trimmed. He rose with panther grace, eyes flicking between guests. "Ned Stark crossing half the realm in 3 days, I expect. But Jaime Lannister, I'd sooner expect the wall to walk south." Jaime bowed low, a gesture neither mocking nor contrite. "My lord, walls crumble quicker of late. I'm here to see they fall the right direction." A throat cleared. Maester Cresson, gray and stooped, stepped from shadows clutching scrolls. "We speak of would-be kings?" His eyes settled on Ned. "Or of broken oaths?" The question knifed air. Renly waved a hand. "Spare the solemn frowns, Maester. Let us hear them." "And no." Ned recounted events. Robert's final hunt, Cersei's seizure of Joffrey's guardianship, Jaime's defiance, the proposed regency. He spoke until torchlight painted corners gold. Silence followed, heavy as chainmail. Renly broke it with laughter that shook candle flames. "7 hells. You two mean to cage my sister by law and my brother by mercy." His mirth faded, eyes sharpening like honed steel. "Tell me, Sir Jaime, would you raise steel against your father if Tywin refused?" Jaime's jaw set. "I would raise truth. Tywin will heed it." "Truth cracks quicker than skulls," Renley cut in. "Answer." Jaime met his gaze. "I will, if no other way remains." For a long beat, Renley studied him. "Very well." He turned to Ned. "And you, Stark, would you hold your north if Balon Greyjoy rose again? If Dorne rode north for vengeance, if Highgarden withheld grain? You'd need this pact as much as the stag, the lion, or the rose." "I will hold my honor," Ned said. "Honor salts no meat when winter comes." Renley sighed, pacing. "But perhaps a pact of wolves and lions could lure swords beneath my banners." He stopped, looking out the tent's open flap toward dawn-pink sky. "I will present your terms to Highgarden. If my allies agree, I will ride to King's Landing, not to seize a throne, but to guard a boy king in the name of all great houses. Until then, stay. Feast. The Tyrell cooks outshine every chef in Westeros save maybe the Dornish." Jaime grinned. "We accept." That night, Ned dined among rows of trestle tables, laden with spiced goat, honeyed dormice, and trenchers floating with thick stews. Minstrels played bawdy songs. Stormlords roared laughter. Yet the laughter felt hollow to Ned. A brittle veneer. The realm teetered. One spilled cup could send it screaming into war. Arya would have loved the tumblers, he thought. Sansa would have marveled at the silks. Robb would measure every man's sword callus. Bran would ask 100 questions. Rickon, gods. Rickon could barely speak a sentence, and already he might grow to hate lions. Ned's fists clenched until his knuckles ached. Across the hall, Jaime conversed with Ser Brienne of Tarth. Renly's newest rainbow guard, taller than many men. They debated longsword forms, steel rasping as they mimed parries. Jaime laughed, the sound genuine. For a heartbeat, Ned glimpsed the knight he might have been, before vows bound him to kings of fire and sisters of ice. When feasting dwindled to low chatter, Renly approached Ned. He carried a sealed parchment and a thoughtful frown. "Word from Dragonstone," he said. "Stannis calls me usurper, claims the throne by right. Red Comet or no Doad." He read Maester Pycelle's letter about Robert's bastards and claims Joffrey is no king at all. Nain. Ned's heart sank. Stannis will never accept a regency. "No," Renly agreed. "But Stannis lacks the men to enforce his claim unless Dragonstone sprouts wings." He tucked the parchment away. "Still, it means war, unless we sway him swiftly. Stannis respects only law. Then give him law." Renly's smile flickered. "If we lure him to King's Landing for counsel, name him Hand, let his iron sense hold Cersei's pride in check." He clapped Ned's shoulder. "You Northmen hide cunning beneath fur. Think on it." At dawn's pale blush, Ned stood atop a grassy knoll overlooking Bitterbridge's misty floodplain. The trident's lesser branches glimmered, and morning fog curled around willows. Somewhere below, soldiers stirred, clank, cough, curse. But up here, only birdsong broke the hush. He drew ice half from its scabbard, feeling the old steel hum. Across the river of mist, another figure approached. Jaime, hair mussed, tunic half-laced. He carried no sword, only a wineskin. "Couldn't sleep," Jaime said. "Nor I." Ned slid ice away. "Too many ghosts." Jaime handed the skin. "They drink free at dawn." Ned drank. The wine tasted of blackberries and smoke. "If this fails," he said, "the realm will drown in ghosts." "It might." Jaime squinted toward the waking camp. "But consider this. For the first time since Aegon's conquest, 2 great houses have chosen trust over blades. That seed could grow stronger than Valyrian steel." Ned studied him. "Do you believe that?" Jaime smirked. "I believe in improbable wagers. Look at me. sworn oaths by day, broken oaths by night. If every man lived by the book, we'd still worship at Valyria's altar. Menem. He glanced at Ned's gray eyes. I saw the Mad King toast as wildfire devoured men alive. I swore then that I'd never again bow while innocence burned. Cersei will light her pyres soon enough. When she does, I need allies who will douse the flames, not argue about propriety. Ned respected unvarnished truth more than courtesy. He extended his hand. Then let this pact be more than convenience. Jaime clasped it, firm. We share the weight. As dawn unfurled its golden banners across the plains of Bitterbridge, two men whose families had feuded across generations stood shoulder to shoulder. Wolves and lions, sworn by necessity and bound by newfound respect, stared down the path of war and vowed to carve a different road, one paved perhaps with quieter virtues than songs ever praised. And somewhere, beyond horizon and rumor, ravens beat hard wings toward old stones, Riverrun, Dragonstone, Sun Spear, and Casterly Rock, carrying whispers of a tale not yet written, of a Stark-Lannister pact, and the fragile hope that even in Westeros, mercy might hold a sharper edge than steel. Okay. The morning mists dissolved beneath a mild southern sun, and with them the hushed stillness of dawn. Bitterbridge awoke like a leviathan roused from slumber. Banners flapped, grooms cursed over balky destriers, kettles hissed above cookfires. Ned Stark lingered near the edge of camp, watching vapor curl from the trident's narrow braid until the river brushed silver against reeds. For the first time in memory he felt neither north nor south, neither wolf nor warden. Only a man balanced on a precipice so thin a sparrow's feather might tip him into ruin. A distant horn sounded. 3 plaintive notes, Renley Baratheon's call to counsel. Jaime Lannister appeared beside Ned without herald or clang of plate, as though conjured by doubt itself. The Kingslayer's eyes betrayed little of last night's revelry, though a red welt marked his jaw where Sir Brienne's practiced blade had kissed him during a drunken spar. "Ready to face the storm?" he asked, lips quirking. Ned answered with a curt nod. Together, they threaded between tent ropes toward Renly's grand pavilion, a silken cathedral striped green and gold. Lords gathered in its shadow, Brian Farring in fox fur cloak, Sir Parman Crane of the Kingsguard wearing Tyrol green instead of white, Lady Alice Karstark, fresh from White Harbor with half a dozen wary retainers, and even Courtenay Penrose, the gaunt castellan of Storm's End, newly arrived under Renly's banner. Each bowed or scowled as the unlikely pair passed. Some fingered sword hilts. Others crossed hearts in silent prayer. Inside, the pavilion brimmed with tension. A long oaken table stood beneath a canopy of lamplight, parchments strewn like battlefield maps. Renly lounged at the head, Margaery Tyrell seated to his right with Loras beside her, bright as a painted saint. Maester Cresson fussed over inkpots. Brienne of Tarth loomed near a side pole, arms folded, blue eyes wary. Renly lifted a goblet when Ned and Jaime entered. "Ah, ambassadors of impossibility." He gestured to empty chairs. "Come, we spin the wheel anew." Ned took his seat, Jaime beside him, silence wrapping them both. Lords shushed, the only sound the soft tick of Cresson's quill. "We stand," Renly began, "at the brink of a war born of children's quarrels and father's pride. Yet here, improbably, sits Stark and Lannister." He paused, letting his gaze wander the circle. "If ice and gold can share wine, perhaps our realm still walks a gentler path." Courtenay Penrose rapped knuckles on the table. "Words and promises save no small folk once dragons wake. Stannis will not yield claim to any pretty speech." Renly sipped. "Which is why we send more than speech." He nudged forward a vellum scroll sealed with his stag. "A proposal naming Stannis Lord Protector of the realm through a Regency Council. Maester Cresson's language, steeped in law, thick as arbor gold. My banners stand ready to escort his lords into King's Landing to seek Joffrey under their guard." "Then see," Brian Farring snorted, "and place you, my lord, at second in succession, after an unblooded boy. Convenient." Margaery's eyes narrowed. "Should the realm measure each offer solely against suspicion, we may as well light the Blackwater aflame ourselves." "Peace." Ned's voice cut the air. All turned. Let us weigh deeds, not lineage. Renley proposes that Stannis wield royal power until Joffrey comes of age, under vow that Queen and Council both obey. It spares King's Landing from sack and keeps small folk from fire. If Stannis declines, war rises. If he accepts, we breathe. Then? Cresson inclined his head. Wise and true, yet Lord Stannis trusts few tongues but mine, and I am too old to ride swiftly. I will carry the parchment. The words left Jaime before anyone else could speak. Surprise rippled. Jaime met each stare without flinch. The Kingslayer delivering peace. Stannis will grant audience out of sheer curiosity, if only to skewer me whole. My sword arm may prove argument enough. Lady Alice Karstark rose, grey braids swinging. And who protects Lord Stark whilst you dangle before Dragonstow's walls? If lions roam free, wolves keep watch. She placed a weather-roughened hand on Ned's shoulder. I will ride in his stead. A Karstark's blood is Winterfell's blood. Ned's protest died beneath her steely gaze. Jaime inclined his head in gallant concession. Renly's smile spread. Then we send 2 envoys. Sir Jaime, to bear the Queen's brother's pledge, and Lady Alice, to carry the North's. Brienne shifted. And I escort them. Loras opened his mouth to object, but Margaery's fingers brushed his wrist, silencing him. Brienne's resolute nod settled the matter. Renly tapped the table. Maester, prepare twin scrolls. At sunset, our trio departs with fresh mounts. Gods speed them. Afternoon, haze shimmered above the rose fields beyond Bitterbridge. Heat strange for high summer's dying days. Ned walked with Margaery along a shaded lane, while bees hummed in wild columbine. She moved with the still water grace of a woman schooled in court, but born to farmland winds, her voice low enough that leaves kept their secrets. You trust my husband's offer? She asked. Ned considered his answer. I trust the choice between blades and ink. Ink costs fewer fathers. She smiled faintly. And yet ink spills easier in small councils than on great fields. I have learned that lords prefer parchment pacts, but seldom honor them once horns sound. The North remembers, Ned murmured. We keep our oaths. Then swear one more. For my sake. Should Tyrell spears be forced to stand between your pact and Lannister ambition, remember that flowers have thorns but bleed when plucked. Her gaze held his. I would see Westeros bloom rather than burn. Ned bowed. You have my word. I seek harvest, not hearthfire. They parted beneath arching willows, and Ned felt the strange warmth of alliance sprout like spring grass beneath his boots. Far to the west, beneath Dunstone towers, Casterly Rock greeted dusk with tolling bronze bells. Tywin Lannister sat in the cavernous hall of echoes before an obsidian map table, candle points flickering like distant stars across Westeros' carved ridges. Beside him stood Tyrion, one hand resting on a wine flagon, the other stroking his beard, half amused, half anxious. A raven perched upon the table, scroll tied with a crimson string. Tywin's silent rage pulsed like a forge. He had read the message thrice. Each time the words remained treasonous. Jaime has entered pact with Eddard Stark under Renly Baratheon's protection, offering regency over Joffrey. Tyrion broke the silence. Well, father, it appears you sired a peacemaker. Who would have wagered? Tywin's glare could have split oak. Jaime shames our name. Worse, he lends the Starks legitimacy. If wolves and lions dine under a stag banner, the realm will name me villain for any response. Then you plan to be villain anyway, Tyrion quipped. A smaller step than believing Cersei might yield counsel to Stannis. Tywin dismissed the dwarf with a curt wave. Send ravens. Mobilize the rocks full strength, 10,000 heavy, 5,000 crossbow, every mountain retainer with bow or axe. We march for King's Landing within a fortnight. Tyrion swallowed. And if Jaime stands in your path, then my son learns hard truths. Tywin's fist closed on the scroll. Parchment crackled. No lion stands above the rock. Cersei Lannister's fury, meanwhile, scalded the Red Keep. She paced the queen's ballroom, gown of crimson silk, trailing like blood. Pycelle hovered in door shadow, wringing hands. "My brother rides against me," she seethed. "My father hesitates behind distant stone. Renley hides behind roses, Stannis behind law. Everywhere, men use boys as shields." Pycelle coughed. "Your Grace, Lord Baelish offers counsel. He claims allies in the city watch, still loyal. Baelish sells loyalties by the pound." She poured arbor red into a goblet. The liquid sloshed dark as garnet. "If Stark and Jaime return with Stormlander swords, the city will starve before winter. We must bleed them before they reach the gates." Her gaze drifted to the balcony where Joffrey practiced archery, loosing shafts into straw men painted like wolves. Each arrow struck belly or throat. His laughter rang shrill. The sun gilded his hair, but shadows clung to his smile. "Summon Varys," she commanded. "We will sow whispers of treason into every tavern until small folk greet Starks with stones. And tell Lord Commander Boros, double the night watch at every gate. No sellsword enters who hasn't kissed the lion." She sipped wine, savoring the bitterness. Let the realm watch a queen dare what kings fear. In a damp cell beneath the Red Keep, Arya Stark crouched over a dull-bladed knife, scraping names into candle drip on the floor. Cersei, Joffrey, Slynt, Ilyn, all scratched into waxy stalagmites. Yoren of the Night's Watch had smuggled her this far under guise of recruit, but gold cloaks patrolled every passage. Escape now meant death. Yet Arya's rage was patient, like a wolf's hunger pacing behind ribs. Somewhere overhead a bell clanged, footsteps echoed, keys rattled. She blew out the stub, swallowed the knife between tongue and cheek, and pressed into shadow. 2 guards passed, muttering of wolves and lions sharing fleas. She counted heartbeats until their torches died beyond turning stare, then crept to a vent, listening past iron grates. Faint through corridor murk, she heard Sansa's sobs, thin as a reed, breaking. Arya's fingers whitened around the hilt in her mouth. If they hurt Sansa. Not if, she corrected. When. A rage arrowed through her bones, but she steadied breath. Needle was gone, but vengeance kept its edge. Someday. Some corridor. She would slip behind Cersei like a whisper and carve a new name into the dark. Hundreds of leagues north, Robb Stark stood upon the battlements of Moat Cailin as marsh mists coiled like serpents around ruined towers. Grey wind padded at his side, hackles lifting toward unseen threat. The young lord watched ravens wheel above the neck, each black wing a message he could not read yet felt in marrow. Catelyn joined him, cloak snapping. Her eyes were raw from sleepless nights. Another crow from King's Landing, she told him. Sir Roderick says Jaime rides east with Lady Alice. He rides under truce. Robb frowned. A Lannister truce is a noose lined with silk. Yet father breathes, Catelyn whispered. That sliver of hope may spare thousands. Robb stared south. Or Tywin uses the lull to swarm the Riverlands unchecked. He clenched railing stone until fingertips blanched. We must decide. Sit idle while lions sharpen claws or ride to Riverrun now. Catelyn placed a gentle hand on his arm. Wait. A raven from the Twins speaks of Walder Frey's levies marching to Riverrun already. Edmure gathers Tully bannermen. Your grandfather's illness deepens. If we ride not for vengeance but for family. Robb's jaw hardened. Family. Duty. Honor. Words his father wore like skin. Now Robb tried them on and found them heavy. We march soon. But not yet. Let us hear more. One day's patience may shape a realm. Then see. 3 riders left Bitterbridge under sunset's amber glow. Jaime clad in half-mail and crimson cloak trimmed down to dull tawny. Lady Alice Karstark in wolf-grey leather, snow-white scarf around her braid. Brienne of Tarth astride a destroyer as vast as a war pony, blue cloak fluttering like storm seas. Behind them thundered a dozen Stormlander outriders, lances pennoned, tasked with no more than ensuring safe passage through roiling kingdoms. They spurred northeast along the Roserad. On day 2, smoke rose on horizon. A hamlet razed, char torn across barley fields. Refugees picked through ashes, searching for children beneath collapsed roofs. Jaime dismounted first, approaching a charred beam still smoldering. A woman with singed hair spat at his feet. Lannister men did this. She hissed. Your red lion on their shields. Said they sought a river rat, burnt our barns for sport. Lady Alice crouched, running fingers across black earth. When? 5 nights passed. They rode east after looting. Her voice cracked. Took my boy for squire. He is 7. Nah. Brienne knelt, offering a skin of watered wine. Children's eyes ringed with soot, watched in silence. Jaime's face shuddered. My father's hosts, he muttered. He wastes no time. Lady Alice rose. These tracks lead north by east, perhaps toward Harrenhal. We cannot chase, Brienne noted. Dragonstone waits. Jaime mounted, shoulders stiff. Justice waits everywhere, my lady. But let us seek the bigger fire before we stamp these sparks. They left the village with as many coppers as their purses allowed, a wordless vow hanging among them like ghost smoke. They reached Rosby as night's veil fell, stabled mounts, and sought rest in Lord Giles' draughty hall. A coughing noble greeted them, flame-flecked kerchief hiding half his face. Giles pretended surprise at Jaime's presence, but offered guest right. Over a meager supper of turnip soup and stale bread, he wheezed gossip. Tywin's levy ridden through Hayford toward the capital. Ironborn reavers sighted off Flint's finger. Rumors that Freeze might declare for whichever side arrived with coin. Jaime listened in silence, eyes hooded. Later, he found Lady Alice at the courtyard well, scrubbing soot from her cloak. Moonlight glinted on the signet ring of Carhold sleep-tight around her thumb. You rail at your father, she said without looking up. Yet you ride his path. I ride to unmake his path, Jaime replied. Eddie's wrong water from cloth. Then understand the cost. My uncle burned in his own hall for refusing the Iron Throne's summons. Riverlanders still bleed for Lion's pride. If you would lead, pay their debts. Jaime's hand tightened on the well rim. I intend to. Brienne's footfalls approached. She carried fresh horseshoes. We leave at dawn. Rosby Smith owes me a favor. She eyed them both. Rest comes seldom on such roads. They dispersed beneath the flicker of torches. On the 5th day, the trio reached the weeping water, fording beneath willow boughs, heavy with late summer pollen. Dawn's copper light revealed Dragonstow's galley sails far out on Blackwater Rush, patrolling for smugglers. Smoke drifted from Dragonmon's peak, volcanic fumes painting sky orange as forged steel. They camped upon the mainland's rocky shore pending an escort. Jaime cleaned his sword in silence. Brienne practiced cuts with a tourney blade, each strike a thunderclap in salt wind. Lady Alice scribbled runes onto twisted birch bark. Old God's prayer, Ned would know. A black ship appeared at midday. Stag's fury. Sails black on black. A golden stag devouring a red hart. Stannis' personal standard. On deck stood Davos Seaworth, the Onion Knight, cloak flapping like tattered sail. Davos disembarked, boots crunching shingle. His weather-beaten face betrayed surprise at Jaime's crimson cloak, deeper surprise at Karstark gray, deepest at Brienne's size. Yet his courtesy held true. My lords, my lady, Lord Stannis bids you aboard. He expects answers worth his time. Aedis bowed. We bear words of peace. Peace often swims less well than war, Davos murmured. He led them up the gangplank. Sailors watched with wariness sharpened by mast clangs. Below decks, the cabin smelled of salt, oak tar, and ink. Stannis Baratheon stood behind a map table. Flames from a hanging lamp cast hollows in his gaunt cheeks. Maester Pylos hovered near, record scroll in hand. Stannis' gaze cut like drawn steel. Kingslayer. Spat more than spoken. Come to mock the memory of the father you slew. Jaime met the stare evenly. I come to forestall new pyres. And you, Stark, traitor kin to traitor wolf? Aelys's chin lifted. I come by Lord Eddard's will. He seeks your justice. Stannis' lip twisted. Justice I shall deliver. Begin. The terms spilled into the cabin's dimness. Regency Council. Queen's banishment from affairs of state. Tywin recalled. Riverrun spared. Stannis listened without movement, knuckles whitening on table edge. When they finished, a thunderous silence filled the hold, broken only by distant gull cries. Regent, Stannis said at last, voice brittle. Protector, yet forbidden to test the boy's blood. He pointed at Jaime. You swear Joffrey of pure Baratheon seed? Jaime's throat worked. I swear Joffrey is my sister's son. Stannis' eyes flared. Silence snapped taut. Jaime continued. Robert named him heir. The realm needs continuity, while truth is weighed. Granted a season of calm, and we unmask all rot without drowning smallfolk. Then see. Stannis turned to Davos. What is half of rotten onion night? Still rotten, my lord, Davos answered softly. Stannis faced Alis. Your lord father clung to honor until it nearly cost him his head. Yet he invites lies to throne? He invites you to uncover them, Alis countered. With law, not blades. Stannis paced, boots thudding. Law? He halted before Jaime. Did law stay your hand when you slew Aerys? No. Jaime's voice a rasp. But law bound me silent. I learned its failings. Pyla set parchment before Stannis. Renley's sealed letter. Stannis broke wax, scanned lines, lips curling. Lightning cracked outside, though sky showed no storm. At last he thrust the scroll aside. I will consider, he said. But understand. Should I refuse, your lives ride thin plank above Black Sea. Pray your gods I find virtue in compromise. He turned to Davos. See them off Dragonstone. Quarter them under guard until dawn. Then ferry them back. That night, Jaime stared from a Dragonstone cell at the red-lit sky. Dragonmon's embers reflected in his iris. He replayed Stannis' unreadable gaze, iron laced with weariness. The man always bent, but never broke. Would he bend now? Footsteps outside. The door opened. Davos slipped in bearing a small lantern. He means to ponder. The smuggler said, Hope you brought gods with honey tongues. Jaime huffed. Only lies and regrets. Davos grinned crookedly. Lies can teach, regrets can steer. Stannis may hear both if they float upon truth. His gaze softened. He knows wildfire better than most. Robert once told him what you did. He may hate, but he respects necessity. Damn. Jaime leaned against cold wall. Necessity is a poor pillow, yet warms colder nights than pride. Davos set the lantern down. Sleep. Dawn might bring new banners. Days later, ravens winged in every direction. Black pinions slicing summer skies. One flew to Bitterbridge, another to Riverrun, one to Casterly Rock, 5 to King's Landing. Tywin read his in the Hall of Echoes, jaw tightening. Stannis agreed to parley at Storm's End under Renly's safe conduct. Tywin cursed the ills of second sons. In King's Landing, Cersei crushed her raven beneath goblet base, wine splattering across silk. Joffrey knocked a serving girl aside for her startle. Cersei ordered Pycelle to prepare wildfire barrels for harbor defense exercises, and the alchemists gleefully obeyed. The city's cellars filled with green shadows that hummed when torches neared. At Riverrun, Catelyn read the Raven thrice, tears staining ink. Ned still lived. Robb exhaled relief yet sharpened plans. Tully banners would remain ready but not yet ride. A day's patience, his mother had said. At Winterfell, Bran dreamed of a lion and a wolf sharing a single heart, bleeding atop the wall as shadows howl. When he woke he told Hodor, but Hodor only said, Hodor, as though names meant nothing when winter called. Storm's End rose from sea-lashed cliffs like a fist raised against gods. Gulls wheeled above thick walls crying. On the great causeway, Renly's column approached. Baratheon stags, Tyrell roses, and among them, Ned Stark astride Iceflower. At Gatehouse he met Brienne kneeling in salute, and Jaime, cheeks stubbled, eyes sunken yet bright with purpose. Lady Alice dismounted behind them, her cloak stiff with salt spray. "Stannis awaits," Jaime said. Ned studied the ancient castle, storm-scarred, unbowed. He spurred forward. Inside, the great hall smelled of salt and smoke. Stannis stood before a long table draped in Baratheon black, Renly on the opposite end, Margaery to one side, Davos at shoulder. Tension crackled thicker than the hall's oaken beams. Ned advanced until his boots met the table's edge. He set ice point upon the flagstones, palms resting on the wolf-head pommel. "My lords, the realm trembles. Let us steady it." "Nemsas." Stannis's gaze flicked to Jaime. "Speak your pact." Ned recited terms, voice clear. "Regency, Council of 5, Stannis, Renly, Ned, Sir Barristan, and Tyrion Lannister as the Crown's representative to ensure Tywin's compliance." At Tyrion's inclusion, Jaime's brow arched. Stannis' mouth thinned. Renly laughed aloud. But Ned pressed on. Tywin recalled. Riverrun spared. North's autonomy reaffirmed. Dornish grievances reopened by impartial tribunal. City grain from Reach secured. Greyjoy fleet patrolled by Royal Navy Commission. When he finished, the hall swirled with murmurs. Stannis leaned over the table. "One flaw. The boy is bastard. Whelp of incest. Law demands he be removed." Ned lifted his chin. "Law demands proof. We gather proof under counsel. Until then the boy remains symbol, not sovereign. Remove him now and Cersei lights wildfire in every cellar from Fleabottom to Baelor's Sept." Renly nodded slowly. "Even dragons burn in wildfire. Stannis, you love King's Landing less than justice, but will you drown it to reach throne?" Stannis' jaw worked. "I will not barter justice." Davos stepped forward, voice gentle. "My lord, justice that slays cities' children breeds more injustice. Let the false boy sit until truth is ironclad, and realm braced. Then expose him." Stannis regarded Davos, then Jaime, then Ned. Muscles in his cheek twitched. At last he spoke, every word forged in flint. "One season, no more. During that season, I rule Regency. When proof stands, the boy falls, lawful and public." He looked to Renly. "And my younger brother withdraws claim." Renly's smile vanished. He glanced at Margaery, then Loras. At length he said, "For peace, I accept." Loras's jaw flexed, but he bowed. Stannis turned to Ned. "Swear you will not hinder justice when blade must fall." Ned rested a hand on ice. "I will not hinder the law." Stannis extended his arm across the table. Ned clasped it. Renly laid his hand atop theirs. Jaime hesitated, then added his gauntleted palm. Alice following suit. Brienne next, Davos last. 7 hands formed a living sigil above the black stag banner. A knot of wolves, lions, stags, roses, and krakens, sworn to hold the realm together with sinew of fragile trust. Beyond the hall's arrow slits, thunder boomed across the bay. Lightning forked behind clouds, white as milk, rimming waves in argent fire. Rain hammered roof slates, yet within storms and the torch flames burned steady, unlike the flickering fortunes of lords and kings. That evening, Ned walked the ramparts alone, cloak drenched in salt spray, the Atlantic gale slamming waves so high they seemed to scrape the moon. He closed his eyes, felt the tremor of stone older than dynasties, and prayed to gods old and new. Let this fragile pact hold long enough for Sansa's smile to return, for Arya's wrath to cool, for Robb's doubts to temper into wisdom. A presence stirred behind him, Jaime bearing 2 cups. He offered one. Stormlander mead. Sweet but stout. Ned drank, tasting honey laced with iron tang. Jaime leaned on the parapet. "Do you believe we just saved the realm?" "Dark. I believe we bought it time." Ned exhaled mist. Time enough for better men to guide it. Jaime glanced sideways. Better men? Where will we find them? Ben. Ned allowed a thin smile. Perhaps they're forged in storms such as this. Lightning split the sky. Thunder rolled across the sea like drums of marching giants. And upon the cliff top, two former enemies watched waves break and considered the shape of dawn. In every corner of Westeros the Pact's ripples spread. At Old Town, Archmaester Marwyn scrawled a raven reply, laden with prophecy and dread. At Sunspear, Arianne Martell weighed an invitation to counsel against the ghosts of Elia and her children. On the Iron Islands, Balon Greyjoy sharpened his kraken banner with thoughts of winter-weakened shores. North of the Wall, a white shadow loped across drifting snows, haunted by horns that blew only in dreams. And in the Red Keep, a queen whispered to a pyromancer amid barrels glowing sickly green. If they would steal my crown with parchment, Cersei vowed, eyes gleaming in candle flame, then I will teach them parchment burns hotter than kings. The pyromancer's grin flickered like wildfire. Storm's End woke the next day beneath clear skies. Maesters dipped quills to scribe a compact of Storm's End, 7 vellum copies, each for a great house. Seals cracked, wax melted, banners rolled. Galleys prepared to sail for King's Landing, bearing envoys sworn to present the pact to Cersei. Jaime offered to lead, but Stannis insisted Ned accompany. The lion may breed fear, the wolf, respect. Brienne volunteered as Ned's sworn shield. Lady Alice would ride north with ravens to Riverrun and Casterly Rock. Jaime chose to escort her part way, determined to speak with his father before swords did. On the third morning they gathered in the courtyard. Ned clasped Jaime's forearm. Tell Tywin the realm asks for builders, not butchers. Jaime's grin was tired. I'll bring a hammer, but keep a sword at my back. He glanced at Brienne. Take care of him, my lady. Brienne straightened, hand upon pommel. I shall. The lignum gates creaked open. Hooves clattered, drums rolled. The party split. Ned and Brienne riding southeast toward the march, banners furled. Jaime and Alice westward toward the King's Road's fork. Rainbows arced in retreating mist, colors braided across sky like strands of uncertain fate. Tywin Lannister broke camp outside Hayford when Jaime and Alice rode into sight. 1,000 spears dipped in salute. Whether to heir or hostage it was hard to tell. Dust cloaked Jaime's cloak dull brown. Lady Alice's wolf-pin gleamed silver. Tywin emerged from his command tent, red cape brushing ground like spilled wine. His eyes, citron, unblinking, absorbed sun before flicking to Karstark. Ain, Tywin. Jaime dismounted. I come with peace. He unfurled a scroll, bearing Storm's End seal. A compact to spare the realms. Tywin did not glance at the parchment. Explain your cloak's color, not your scribbles. Jaime sighed. I ride neither white nor red today. I ride for the realm. Kingslayer and Oathbreaker speaks of realm. Tywin's voice carried across the silent host. I gave you command, and you kneel to Starks. I stand beside Starks to keep Cersei from turning the city into pyre. Tywin's nostrils flared. Cersei guards her children. With wildfire barrels. Jaime stepped closer. Father. She will burn everything you built, then rebuild, stronger. Tywin's words struck like hammer on anvil. Fire tempers steel. Jaime's shoulders slumped. Even tempered steel snaps. He held out the scroll. Read. Tywin's gauntlet knocked it aside. I will march. King's Landing will open its gates or we breach them. Then we discuss pacts. Lady Alice spoke for the first time. March on King's Landing and the north rides south. Stannis sails in, Dorne stirs. You wage war on 6 fronts. Tywin regarded her as one might a fly. And yet, the rock stands. He turned away. Take the Karstark north, Jaime. Your parole is granted. Return when wearied of folly. If you stand against me again, you stand alone. Jaime watched his father disappear into scarlet ranks, the gulf between them wider than the Blackwater. He felt Karstark eyes on him, a question unspoken. He mounted, voice low. We ride. Behind them, Drums beat war's cadence. Ahead lay roads of dust and choices coiled like serpents beneath every mile. When Ned and Brienne neared King's Landing, they found the harbors choked with fly-speckled refugees. Tales of Tywin's host, of iron-born raids, of Dothraki sell sails out of Pentos bred panic. The city's gates bristled with new scorpions, walls patrolled by doubled gold cloaks. Ned smelled fear and wildfire smoke long before he saw the Red Keep's crimson spires. Sir Barristan Selmy met them at the mud gate under white enamel and solemn eyes. He greeted Ned with a warrior's clasp. "Lord Stark, King Joffrey commands you lay down sword." Ned answered by sheathing ice in front of Selmy. "I come to speak, not fight." Selmy's nod was weary. "Then may the gods shield us." He spared a glance at Brienne, impressive even to a living legend, and led them through tense streets. Some small folk cheered the wolf's return, others spat curses, fearful of rumors. Shops boarded their shutters, sept bells tolling midday, but sounding like morning hymns. Courtyard fountains ran green, died for some festival, a child said, but Ned guessed otherwise. Wildfire test. They climbed the serpentine steps of Maegor's Holdfast. In the throne room, the Iron Throne loomed dark as crow feathers. At its foot stood Cersei in cloth of gold, crown tilted like a halo of knives. Joffrey perched on the throne's second step, swinging his feet. Sansa knelt beside, face pale, eyes wide yet shining when they met her father's. Cersei's smile was brittle glass. "Lord Stark returns. Bearing what?" Treason folded neat. Ned stepped forward. "I bear a compact signed by Stannis and Renley, witnessed by lords north and south. It offers the realm peace. You need only accept a council. A council that strips my son of power." Joffrey snapped. "I am king." Cersei laid a calming hand on his knee. "Your father's friend forgets himself. Tell me, Lord Stark, did you kneel to Lord Stannis or to my darling brother when you drafted this farce?" "I knelt to common cause." Ned's voice carried the chamber. "Accept this regency and spare King's Landing from your father's siege, Stannis' fleet, and the North's swords." Laughter drifted from a shadowed alcove. Petyr Baelish, half-smile gleaming like coin. Varys stood near, hands spidering. Pycelle wheezed behind. Cersei descended 2 steps. "Peace born of cowards. I would rather die a queen than live a pawn." "Then?" "At least pawns survive," Ned murmured. Her eyes flamed. "Sir Boros," she called. "Bring forth the gift." Heavy doors groaned. 2 pyromancers trudged in bearing a crystal sopran jar, pulsing emerald flame. A hush swept the lords. Even Baelish shifted. Cersei touched the glass. Within, wildfire writhed like hungry ghosts. "King's Landing holds enough of this to cook armies," she said. "If lions are cornered, we bite. If wolves close in, we burn the forest." She faced Ned. "Accept my terms. You withdraw your claim, renounce every pact, and bend the knee. Then Sansa and Arya live. Refuse, and I shatter these jars beneath the throne." A ripple of horror. Ned's pulse thundered. He saw Sansa's silent plea, Brienne's hand sliding to sword. Selmy's grief. Wildfire hissed, green tongues licking glass. Time slowed, like that long winter day when Bran fell. Ned weighed lives against honor once more. Always the same balance, always the same pain. Behind him a door burst open. Tyrion Lannister strode in, dusty from travel, clutching a leather satchel. "Forgive the intrusion," he piped, voice echoing. Family meetings turned dull without the clever one. Cersei's brows knit tight. "Little brother, you dare." Tyrion raised a writ sealed with the hand's pin. "By decree of the Compact of Storm's End, signed by both your brothers, His Grace Joffrey appoints me hand pro tempore during regency negotiations." He flashed a grin at Ned. "May I see that scroll?" Ned handed his copy. Tyrion produced a monocle, squinting theatrically. Stannis, Renley, Stark, impressive calligraphy." He clicked tongue. "Sister, Declare me traitor if you must. But Tywin marches with 25,000. He crushes this city if wildfire consumes it, and you do not survive the flames you spark." Joffrey leapt down. "Uncle is a dwarf and liar." Tyrion bowed. "True and may be, but numbers don't lie. Father's knights will not ride through green hell to save a pyromancer's dream." Cersei's chest heaved. For a heartbeat her mask cracked. Fear. Raw. Unhidden. Then anger patched it whole. "Get out," she hissed. "All of you. I will consider." Tyrion wagged a finger. "Consider swiftly, dear sister. Ravens travel fast, but armies faster." He gestured at guards. "Escorts for Lord Stark and Lady Brienne to guest quarters. Comfortable ones, Sir Boros." Boros hesitated, but Selmy stepped forward, hand upon Boros' arm. Together they guided Ned away. Sansa's tear-filled eyes followed. Ned gave a subtle nod. "Hope lives." As the great doors closed, Ned heard Tyrion's voice drift behind. "Now, about those jars. Let's move them somewhere less volatile, shall we? Perhaps Blackwater Rush. Deep, deep underwater." Then night dropped a veil over King's Landing brighter than any dusk. Torches flickered, bells tolled, and tension wound each alley. Ned lay awake in a solar beneath the Tower of the Hand, Brienne stationed outside. He reread the compact by moonlight, counting each clause like a prayer bead. Tyrion's arrival tilted the board. Cersei wavered. Tywin marched. Stannis waited. The realm balanced upon slender parchment. A soft tap. Brienne opened the door. Arya slipped in, paler than ghost, grime on cheeks. She embraced her father, knife hidden still between tongue and cheek. Ned clasped her shoulders. "Where's Sansa?" "Closet in the maiden vault. I know ways." Her voice quivered. "We have to run." Ned shook his head. "Not yet. Give me one more dawn." Arya's glare blazed. "Dawns keep bleeding. Wolves keep dying." He hugged her close. "Trust me." She trembled, then nodded. Brienne smuggled her back into shadows. Ned returned to the window. On the walls, gold cloaks lit torches dipped in green oil. "Test burns." Sparks hissed against the dark like serpents tasting battle. Below, the black water flowed black as oblivion. He whispered to the night. "Hold, just one day more." Far away, thunder boomed without storm. At dawn, horns sounded beyond the mud gate. Tywin's vanguard arrived. Standards flapping crimson, spears held stiff. But they halted outside Scorpion Range, trenches yawning with stakes and pitch. The city braced. On the battlements, Tyrion met his father under banner of truce. Words drifted across cordon. Parchments swapped, fists shaken, threats measured. Tywin's soldiers wheeled, forming camps rather than lines. The siege began without assault. Yet, Ned watched from a balcony beside Selmy. "If we cannot calm lions now, gates crack soon." Selmy sighed. "I have served 3 kings, all bled the realm. Perhaps time for knights to serve people instead." Ned glanced at the old knight. Hope flickered. Within the Red Keep, Cersei paced the Queen's ballroom stripped of finery. Her barefoot steps echoed. Joffrey sulked in a corner, crown askew. Pycelle stood trembling with scrolls, very silent as a dream. She turned on them. "If they force my hand, we ignite every jar. Better ashes than chains." Varys bowed. "Ashes seldom crown queens, your grace." "Spare me riddles, spider." Cersei's voice cracked. "Fetch me victory." Varys's eyes gleamed sympathy. "Vox Populi crowns victors before blades clash. Let the small folk voice desire for peace. Let them chant your name as Mother of Mercy. Accept the counsel, only to betray it in time. Spiders weave best when winds are calm." She stared at him. Slowly her shoulders lowered. "Play me a web then, but if it snaps, fire answers." Varys bowed deeper. "I shall spin." By afternoon a new proclamation rang through crowded streets. Queen Regent Cersei Lannister, in her son's name, accepted the compact pending Great Council confirmation. Bells pealed. Banners unfurled. Small folk cheered, some in relief, some at coin tossed by Baelish's agents. Ned stood beside Selmy on the throne room balcony, as scribes prepared the royal seal. Joffrey sulked but obeyed. Cersei's hand clenched around his shoulder like a golden shackle. Tyrion oversaw every flourish, quill dancing, eyes sharp. When the wax cooled beneath the direwolf, lion, and stag imprints, a collective exhale filled the hall. For the first time in memory, the Iron Throne sat unattended. A symbol rather than seat. Ned's gaze rose to the great stained glass window where sunlight splashed crimson and azure across blade-hewn steps. He imagined Robb's steady gait, Sansa's relieved smile, Arya's quick grin. He pictured Winterfell's Godswood glade beneath snow-flecked pines. A far dream, but alive. Jaime and Alis still rode, Tywin encamped, Stannis at Storm's End. The game was far from played. Yet this move, improbable as dawn upon Dragonstone smoke, bought them breathing space, a season the realm had not tasted since King Aerys's first madness. Outside, seabirds cried over the harbor. Far below, alchemists sealed wildfire jars in damp cellars, Pycelle signing redundant parchments, Baelish counting new debts. Above, ravens soared, each bearing ink-wet letters destined for every seat of power. And in the hush after bells, Ned Stark allowed himself one thin sliver of hope, that sometimes, when swords tired of singing, parchment might yet hold the music of peace. Maester Pylos wax candles guttered in the gusts blowing through what had once been the Tower of the Hand Solar, and the room smelled of rain-damp parchment and warm oak. Ned Stark sat beside Tyrion Lannister at the long walnut table, where, scant hours earlier, the royal seal had cooled. Outside the balcony doors, King's Landing seethed in cautious celebration. Strings of lanterns bobbed above alleys, their oily glow gilding the slanted roofs. From the harbor came the boom of distant drums, Tyrol sailors singing the Compact's birth. Yet beneath the din Ned heard another rhythm, the unsettling creak of siege works being raised on the northern plain, the hollow thunder of Tywin's smiths, forging spearheads through the night. Tyrion shoved the last parchment toward Ned, with an air of exhausted triumph. 7 copies for 7 kingdoms. Ravens leave at dawn. Even father cannot unwrite wax. His wine-stained lips twitched, equal parts relief and mischief. He wiped quill splatters from his doublet, with a kerchief embroidered with golden lions chasing their tails. Go, my lord hand for a day. Sleep while you still own dreams uninfringed by Lannister lawsuits. Ned closed the ledger. Dreams are for spring, Lannister. We winter folk do better with waking. Yet his eyelids sagged. He tested the latch on the balcony doors. Habit he'd kept since Robert's rebellion, and found them barred. Then he strode to the hearth. The flames had dwindled to embers, but heat still pulsed faintly. Arya was stowed away in a linen closet down the hall under Brienne's watch, Sansa locked in the maiden vault, protected though not yet freed. By dawn both girls must be out of Cersei's claw reach. Sleep was a wolf he could not afford to feed. Tyrion poured himself a last cup. Do you ever wonder, he mused, swirling wine so red it looked black in the dimness, whether all this ink and steel is a cosmic jest staged by the gods so they may drink our tears more sweetly? I wonder if that jest would sound so merry without dwarfs to speak it aloud, Ned replied, and his lips surprised him by curling into a ghost of a smile. Tyrion raised the cup in salute. The wine winked crimson between them like a shard of sunset caught in glass. A knock rapped. Too quick, too slow. Brienne's signal. Ned unbarred the door. The Lady Knight ducked in, rainwater streaking her cheeks. Her sword belt clinked as she knelt. The Queen's lions sweep every corridor, sir. Sir Boros leads them, searching for the girls. They have orders to bring Sansa before the Queen at dawn. Tyrion cursed, slamming the goblet down so hard wine sloshed onto the ledger pages. Cersei agreed to no summons till Council meets. That woman's word is worth less than ironwood and Dorne. Ned's hand fell to ice pommel. Then Sansa leaves tonight. Arya too. Have you found the passage Grand Maester Gorman once used? Brienne nodded. A dry sewer beneath the kitchens. It opens half a league outside the city wall near the tanner's pool. Smugglers use it during riots. Tyrion's brow arched. Perfect. Nothing says new era of peace like smuggling two noble girls through shit tunnels. He huffed. I'll distract Mother with a fresh crisis. Easy enough. I have a tongue and she has temper. But we need transport once the girls are out. I have that, Brienne said. Sir Loras supplied 2 swift coursers wearing no colors. Rain drummed against the slate roof overhead. The night seemed to close around them like a gauntlet. In Maegor's holdfast, Cersei Lannister stood alone before Myrish glass. Lightning forked above the bay, etching her reflection in white veins. A queen with pale gold hair fallen loose, nightgown of black silk, eyes rimmed with exhaustion yet still alight with iron flame. Outside, the 1,000 points of lamplight seemed to jeer. She pressed fingertips to the chill pane as if to claw them out, then turned toward the hearth. Grand Maester Pycelle shuffled in, fingers laced. Your Grace, he wheezed. The pyromancers report that all jars have been removed to the black cells, per Lord Tyrion's instructions. They protest. Let them protest by candlelight, Cersei snapped. They'll be dead before their candles burn low if they cross me. Pycelle bowed his head so hair-puffed. There is another matter. Lord Slint awaits outside. He claims Lord Stark's guard attempted to remove a prisoner from the dungeons. One of Stark's daughters, perhaps. Firelight danced red in Cersei's eyes. Bring him. Janos Slint strode in, helm under arm, mustache gleaming with sweat. Your Grace. The wolf girl slipped us again. The Night's Watch recruiter Yoren aided her once, now some tall wench in blue. He spat. Half the guard fear her like she's Doran's ghost. Cersei's nails bit her palm. Find the girl before dawn, or you will guard the wall in Yoren's rags. Her gaze sliced Pycelle. Instruct Sir Boros. Double patrols round the maiden vault. The older girl will draw Stark's eye. She sank onto the window seat, listening to Slint's retreating boots. Rain hammered the keep until the chamber quivered. Peace. She tasted the word like sour wine turning to vinegar. Perhaps she would drink anyway, but only to spit it back sweeter in her choosing. Deep under the keep, Arya crouched behind a pile of salt barrels. Head bowed so sleeve-tattered hair hid her face. Torchlight swept the corridor as 2 guards lumbered past, joking about the Lion Queen's next bedmate. The men hauled a squealing pig. The pig squealed about as loud as Arya's heart. When their footsteps faded, she scuttled forward, dagger between teeth. Brienne's map had been clear. Past the salt stores, turn left, follow black water trickle, crawl through drainage grate, drop to lower culvert. Arya's feet sloshed through inches of filth that sucked between her toes, but anger warmed her. Every drip and squeak in the tunnel echoed her mantra of names. Cersei, Joffrey, Slint, Boros. Needle was gone, but the little dagger throbbed with promise. A rough stone doorframe gaped ahead. Brienne waited there, sword out, cloak plastered wetly against steel. Ned knelt by the grate, prying rusted bars with a crowbar that squealed like rats. Arya darted to them. Her father's hug steadied her jittering bones. "Where's Sansa?" she whispered. "Coming." Brienne scanned corridor shadows. "We must go as soon as she arrives." But minutes dragged. Then heavy footsteps pounded beyond the turn. Guards running. Torch glow brightened. A girl's cry pierced the dank air. "Father!" Sansa rounded the corner. Skirts clutched. Hair tumbling gold over shoulders. Behind her, 2 gold cloaks thundered, swords half drawn. Brienne leapt between, longsword ringing free. Steel flashed. The corridor exploded with clangs. Ned pushed the grate open with a last grunt and yanked Arya inside. "Go!" he barked. But Arya jammed shoulders back against the tunnel wall and watched through bars. Sansa stumbled, nearly overtaken. Brienne blocked a downward chop, riposted, severed fingers from a gauntlet. The guard screamed. Blood splattered stone. The second lunged for Sansa's arm. Ned roared, drawing his dirk. Before steel could meet flesh, a tiny shape barreled into the melee. Tyrion, flinging a lantern. It shattered on helm, spraying oil. Flame whooshed up, guards shrieked, batting at sparks. Brienne slammed pommel into his temple. He crumpled. The hall stank of burning hair. "Move, gods damn it," Tyrion hissed, eyes watering from smoke. Brienne grabbed Sansa's wrist and dragged her to the grate. Ned heaved her through. Brienne squeezed after, armor scraping stone. Tyrion thrust the crowbar inside, then yanked the grate closed on its chain. Boots thundered somewhere behind the smoke. "Hurry," Ned said, and they plunged into fetid dark water up to ankles, leaving torch glow to die behind. Outside the city wall, the night air smelled of wet clay and crushed tansy. Rain had slackened to mist when the escapees emerged from a half-collapsed culvert, shielded by thorny scrub. 2 horses waited, tethered to a stunted olive tree, dappled geldings alert despite the hour. Loras Tyrell's groom dozed on a log. Brienne shook him awake. He nodded without question, pressed reins into her palm, then vanished northeast on a shaggy mule. Sansa clung to Ned's arm, shivering in silk too fine for weather. Arya rolled her eyes but pressed closer to her sister. Tyrion gazed back toward the city. Lantern light glimmered along the walls like a necklace of embers. "Where will you go?" he asked. "Riverrun first," Ned said. "Then Winterfell." He looked at the dwarf. "You risked much tonight." Tyrion snorted. "Risk breeds dividends, or so father says. Bring proof of Joffrey's bastardy quickly. The longer the boy dons gold trimmings, the deeper Cersei digs." He handed Ned a folded parchment dusky with wax. "A pass through the lines in my name. It might stay father's soldiery, unless he's drunk on wrath." Ned nodded. "Thank you." Tyrion tipped an invisible hat, then turned back toward the glow of the Red Keep, his silhouette shrinking into low fog like a cleverly painted imp vanishing between strokes of midnight brush. Brienne hoisted Arya into a saddle. "Hold reins tight. We ride south past Rosby, then cut east through the reeds. No banners, no fires." She mounted behind Sansa. Ned swung into the other saddle. They nudged horses into a trot along a cart track wending through moon-silvered fields where poppies bobbed scarlet in the wind. Behind them, King's Landing's lights shimmered, a dying constellation. In the encampment north of the city, Lord Tywin Lannister walked among siege towers half-built, ironwood planks stacked like bleached ribs. Sparks burst from portable forges. Riveters clanged. Farriers shod horses by torchlight. The Rock's Lord wore crimson cloak over chain and surveyed trenches being dug for ribolds. His face betrayed little, but the set of his mouth foretold storms. Sir Kevin approached, mud staining boots. "Scouts report movement in the forest, brother. Could be Stark stragglers escorting girls." They rode east. Tywin's eyes narrowed. "Jaime led them?" "Unclear. We lost the trail." Tywin considered. "Send Adam Marbrand with 50 outriders. No banners. If it is Jaime, shadow, but do not engage. If it is Stark, track. Alive they fetch more coin than dead." He pivoted toward the Blackwater's sheen where siege barges bobbed. "Come dawn, we show the queen our hammer. She will yield within 3 suns or bleed." Kevin hesitated. "And the compact?" "Paper," Tywin growled. "History is writ with steel." Yet steel alone could not mend the fissure within the lion's own pride. In the command tent, Tywin unrolled the compact copy Alice had left, read until words blurred. Though he dismissed it, some corner of his strategic mind ticked over each clause. Peace might serve for a season, allow debts to be repaid. Fires dimmed, but not with terms that bound the Rock's claws. He traced the wax seal where direwolf and stag overlapped his crimson lion. An unnatural knot he could not untie without cutting. He reached for a quill. If war must come, it would be planned to the throb of gold dragons, not the bleating of sheep-minded councils. But first he would test the queen's resolve. Tomorrow, trebuchets would fire blanks of hay and messages, announcing what true stones awaited should she reject his guardianship. Beyond canvas, thunder rumbled again, yet no lightning split the sky. The drums of siege answered, and Tywin smiled thinly into candle flame. Far to the south in Storm's End, Renley Baratheon watched rain chase itself across the armory roof, where Smith's hammered breastplates shaped to his stag. He leaned on the parapet, Margaery beside him beneath a green cloak. Shot through clouds parted to reveal a brief flush of starlight, silver freckles across obsidian. "Word from King's Landing?" she asked. He shook his head. "Ravens slow during siege. But Davos' last bird said Cersei accepted in name, though wildfire still stockpiled. Tyrion juggles, fuses. Ennis. Stannis chews. I fear our fragile glass is cracking already. And no wonder." Margaery's hand slid into his. "Then keep forging alliances. House Tyrell's swords will hold your flank whatever storms break." She traced the curve of the parapet stone. "My grandmother writes that Highgarden harvests enough grain to feed King's Landing through winter, but only if the Queen Mother swears to treat small folk kindly. Shall we make mercy a bargaining chip?" Renly chuckled. "In this realm, my love, mercy is rarer than wildfire." "Yes, tell Lady Olenna to prepare barges. Ned Stark will need allies within those walls." He squinted north where horizons wavered. "And if Tywin hurls stone, we'll sail grain right under his nose and feed the people he would starve. A different kind of siege weapon. Bread." Margaery squeezed his fingers. "Let lions chew stones. We'll plant gardens in the rubble." Below, torches formed rippling circles around catapults being assembled for Storm's End's defense. Yet over the battlements Renly imagined sails of soft reach green drifting upriver, cargo of wheat and hope. He grinned. Sometimes a jester's mind served a king better than a soldier's. Dragonstone's great hall echoed with the sound of parchment crumpling as Stannis hurled away yet another raven message from King's Landing describing the Queen's nominal consent. Fires in the braziers hissed as sea wind spilled through arrow slits. "She consents yet chains the wolf pups," he growled, pacing. "She consents yet father camps at her gates. She consents yet wildfire glows under sept stones. That is not consent. It is farce painted as pageant." Wow. Sir Davos stood calm. "A farce can buy days. Days buy truth. Ned Stark is no liar. He will bring proof of incest pending. And if he fails, Davos? If proof dies with him on some muddy track, then the Lord of Light knows we did our utmost to spare innocent blood." Davos shifted on his wooden fingers. "Your Grace, your fleet is ready yet low on grain, and Storm's End has offered supply by road and sea. Use the days, gather strength. When truth comes, we strike or we join. A hurry can break any blade." And see. Stannis' jaw flexed, veins standing at his temples. "Very well. But every tide breaks on Dragonstone eventually. I will be that tide." He stared at the painted table under which the kingdom spanned like a serpent road. "Let them waste days. Mine will be a sharpened hour." He ordered luminaries to stock the lantern towers. Ships to take on fresh water. And for Melisandre to pray nightly that the red comet still faintly visible in the western dusk send its omen soon. Yet as Stannis stood by the windowsill watching gulls wheel, the fire inside him seemed tempered by unseen hands. Perhaps grudging trust warmed the iron just enough to keep from snapping. North of the neck, Robb Stark paced the Lord Solar in Moat Cailin. A letter bore his father's hand but little comfort. Journey west, proof to fetch, war at gates. Robb spread maps across the table, candles guttering in drafty arrow slits. Caitlin watched him trace with gauntlet finger the line from Riverrun to King's Landing, then to the north. "If father fails to reach Riverrun," Robb murmured, "and Tywin crushes everything between." Caitlin reached to still his hand. "River lords gather to Edmure. Phrase muster, your grandfather's health wanes, but Riverrun holds. We only move when the path blesses us." Robb met her gaze, blue framed by tired shadows. How does a boy lead when men older than rivers look to him for flood and drought alike? By listening, she said, then choosing as though the old gods whisper in your blood. Because they do. Her palm pressed his chest. And because winter wolves are born for nights like this. A raven clawed at the shutters. A message from Lady Alice Karstark. She and Jaime traveled under Tywin's shadow, but would attempt to cross into Riverrun by dawn 2 days hence. Robb opened it, sighed. Jaime in Riverrun. A stranger year indeed. Grey wind padded in, nose nudging Robb's knee. The direwolf's eyes glimmered gold in candlelight. Robb stroked his head and whispered, "Watch the dark, brother." The wolf whined, ears shifting to some distant call. In the night outside, summer crickets chirped like brittle glass. Yet beyond them, in the forest's hush, an older, colder song lingered. One Robb could not name, though he felt its chord in the pull of every moontide. War for crowns and parchments might soon pale against what prowled beneath ghostly ice. Near the village of Sow's Horn, Jaime and Alice Karstark reined their horses at a creek swollen from rain. Dawn's first pearl began to lighten misty meadows. Ace filled flasks while Jaime stretched aching limbs. He had not slept, except in saddle, since leaving his father's camp. Guilt and worry chased him awake. He saw movement among alders. Riders, 3, maybe 4, on lean mounts. Sigils hidden. Jaime's hand found sword. He whistled. Alice turned. "Company," he muttered. The riders approached cautiously. Masks of mud smeared on faces suggested Riverland scouts. The lead raised a gloved hand. "Sir Jaime Lannister and Lady Karstark?" Jaime nodded. "Depends who asks. Sir Brynden Tully requests you join him at Old Stones by midday. Signed, Tun to you." The rider tossed a ribbon-bound note. Jaime caught it, recognized the Blackfish's seal. He considered. Alice leaned to read. "Brynden is no fool. If he seeks Parley, we hear him." Jaime agreed. They followed the scouts west along hidden cattle tracks, dew-soaking boots. Hills rolled like sleeping giants beneath clouds bruised purple. As sun climbed, an ancient ruin rose. Old Stones, once house mud seat, now crumbled towers gnawed by ivy. Blackfish waited atop a cracked dais overlooking the Trident's fork, his salmon cloak snapping. He greeted Alice first. Not out of courtesy but trust. Then he eyed Jaime as one might a caged cat. "Your father starves Riverrun," he said without preamble. "But if you ride to treat, I listen." Jaime dismounted. "I ride to warn. Tywin will break the Riverlands to carve path for the throne. Or for revenge should the compact persist. Help me dissuade him." Brynden arched a gray brow. "You still wag a cub's tongue, lad." He pointed to crumbling walls. "All this fell when kings fought. Peace bent men's backs but grew fields. Your family reaps both seeds." Jaime inhaled river air. "What price for you to ride with me to the rock?" "My father respects your sword." "No." Brynden laughed, deep and bright. "Your father respects only victory. But I'll ride. If the girls Ned loves already ride north unmolested. If the first wagon Tywin takes bears grain, not flame. And if you wear no sword in his hall." Jaime swallowed pride. "Done." Blackfish studied him. Either the realm's changing, or age finally trims a lion's mane." He signaled scouts. "We leave at dusk. There is an old sept here still half standing. Pray in it if you believe prayer might hold a roof over your head when the storm breaks. Then?" Jaime watched the Blackfish stride away. The ruins of Old Stones whispered with history long shed. He knelt on moss-lipped stone and ran fingers across weathered runes. Long-dead kings had sheltered desires beneath these walls. Their dust now fed ivy. Perhaps peace wrote its story in smaller script than war. But script survived marble. Alice crouched beside him. "Your father may call this betrayal. He already has." Jaime met her gaze. "Yet I think he needs to be betrayed, to see there is life outside his shadow." She smiled. Thin but genuine. "Then let us be outlaws of honor." She offered her hand. Jaime clasped it, felt calluses from bowstring and sword hilt. felt possibility pulse like blood beneath skin. That day, Adam Marbrand's outriders spotted the trio and their Tully escort. Marbrand hung back at distance, sending coded ravens to Tywin. Lannister heir rides with fish. Tywin's reply returned swift. Observe only, do not engage. Report river crossings. Yet the message ended with a crimson wax sigil pressed strangely askew, as though Tywin's hand trembled. First time any man could recall. Night thickened. Bonfires dotted bivouacs across the riverlands like fever rash. Bronn of the Blackwater, now in Tywin's employ, watched from a wooded bluff, grin crooked. Gold cloaks might yet come for his head, but until then, war was coin. In King's Landing, small folk lined up for wheat loaves stamped with a crown and stag. Renly's first barges had slipped past siege lines before catapults rolled to riverbanks. Tyrion stood atop a cart, shouting orders for fair distribution. Men of the city watch, newly bribed, kept fists from flying. Banners bearing both crowned stag and direwolf fluttered. Some folk cheered. Some spat at wolves. Some at lions. But bread eased tongues. In the throne room, Cersei read a note from Varys reporting small folks growing favor toward the bread prince. Renly. She crumpled it. See what your uncle plots. She hissed at Joffrey. He toyed with a jeweled dagger, bored. Plots for sheep, he said. I want swords. Cersei paced. We need a spectacle, not bread. A show of power to drown these wolf-stag hymns. Her gaze strayed to a tapestry of Maegor's dragon atop a pyre of skulls. Perhaps a public execution. A traitor visible. Joffrey brightened. Bring me a thief, or a singer. He licked his lips. Or better, bring me the little wolf girl. How? She's fled. Then find someone who looks like her. Cersei inhaled to scold, but the idea seeded. A scapegoat could quell unrest. Fear sharpened obedience. She dismissed Joffrey to Sir Boros' training yard and summoned Baelish. Petyr's gray-green eyes shone when she told him of a staged execution. Fear is coin, my queen, he purred. I can mint it cheaply. He spoke of orphans, wigs, a public square. Cersei's stomach twisted, yet she said yes. The first stone thrown might kill bread's sweetness. Petyr bowed and left with a step as quiet as a spider weaving. But Varys, hiding behind velvet drapes, heard all. The spider scurried down secret steps into candle-lit tunnels, quill-scratching warnings to Renley, to Davos, to Ned, wherever he roamed. Threads, he thought, must be pulled gently lest whole looms collapse. Ned, Brienne, and the girls reached the Tumblestone Ford 3 days after fleeing. Rain dogged them, but they rode hardy. At a lonely inn yard they found a wagon train bearing Tully salmon banners. Lady Went's supply convoy protected by a score of men-at-arms. The commander, Sir Desmond Grell, recognized Ned despite travel grime. He knelt, and tears pricked his eyes when he saw the girls alive. They shared stew thick with barley while guards posted watch. That night, Ned met Brienne outside the stables. She sharpened sword by lantern. Tomorrow we cross into Riverrun lands. Scouts say Tywin's men raid villages along Red Fork. We may need blades. No. Ned stared into dark. I wrote Catelyn that we come. Yet I hesitate. He pictured Tywin's columns, Riverrun under siege. Jaime riding there. If Tywin means to smash the peace, he will strike at Riverrun, or at us en route. Perhaps Jaime will temper him, but steel answers steel. Brienne's stone-blue eyes softened. I will die before these girls are harmed. She sheathed sword with final rasp. Rest. Dawn demands long stride. Ned placed a hand on her pauldron. You have my trust. He returned to loft where Arya slept curled like pup. Sansa murmured prayers to the seven. Ned lay between them on straw, the smell of horses comforting after months among dragonstone walls. Rain pattered on shingles like a lullaby, yet his mind marched with armies. In pre-dawn hush, a horn blast ripped the valley. Sentry shouted. Ned snatched blade. Brienne burst from shadows, armored and ready. Outside, torches bobbed. Enemy shapes overrunning the perimeter. Tywin's outriders had found them. Ned shoved the girls under the wagon. "Stay." He and Brienne sprinted into chaos. Steel clanged, horses screamed. Sir Desmond rallied defenders. Pikes braced against cavalry charge. Ned parried a lancer's thrust. Severed bridle strap. Horse toppled. Brienne cleaved through a mail shirt, denting helm. Yet numbers pressed. 50 to 20. Above din, a horn answered. Deep, sonorous. From hillside, an orange banner streaked with black fish emerged. Brynden Tully leading a wedge of riverlords, Jaime and Alice at flank. They swept downhill into the fray. Jaime's lion helm blazed as he parried a Lannister outrider. Backhanded pommel into jaw. Goyot. The sight froze Tywin's men. Confusion rippled. They could not strike air of rock. By then, Tully's spears crashed. Rout began. Survivors fled north. When silence fell, Ned and Jaime faced each other beneath a pear tree dripping dawn dew. Blood spattered Jaime's cheek, none his own. Ailey steadied her horse behind. "You are a hard man to follow, Stark." Jaime's grin flashed. "Still alive, I see." "Likewise." Ned wiped ice. "Your father hunts us." Jaime dismounted, breath frosting pale. "He will not stop until he rules or burns." He looked to Brynden, who spoke with Brienne. War council forming. "Let's end his hunt." Hours later, in the great hall of Riverrun, Catelyn embraced her daughters, tears silvering lashes. Robb clasped hands with Jaime under Blackfish's cautious eye. Discussions roared. Tully lords, Northmen, Karstarks, and even one Lannister plotting against the Rock. Letters flew to Storm's End and Dragonstone. Tywin broke truce, Ned survived attack. Stannis' fist clenched on the news. Renly prepared archers for Grainfleet escorts. But Tywin did not idle. Learning of Jaime's betrayal, he abandoned half-built towers, swung north along Trident with 20,000, burning fields and sealing Riverrun in Iron Ring. Ziga lines formed anew, this time father against son. Inside Riverrun's walls, Ned convened war council. Jaime offered knowledge of Lannister tactics. Robb studied maps. Brynden counted arrows. Sansa and Arya, now safe, helped tend wounded under Catelyn's watch. Brienne drilled recruits. Grain stores slim, but hearts steeled. Night after night, campfires glowed on opposite banks. Their reflections twin constellations trembling on river's skin. Trumpets brayed dawn and dusk, but neither side charged. Tywin waited for hunger to gnaw. Ned sought a breach of words, not walls. One twilight, the Blackfish guided Ned through Postern Gate, onto small mid-river island where Parley tent stood. Torches made circles of gold upon water. Tywin arrived in black cuirass, chased with red enamel, flanked by Kevan and Adam Marbrand. Beside Ned came Jaime unarmed, cloak white again. They faced across trestle table. River hissed around island. Tywin spoke first. Voice stone. "You betray blood, boy." Jaime answered, meeting his father's eyes. "I honor it. A lion is more than claws." His gaze flicked to Ned. "We ask you join the compact. Withdraw, feed the riverlands, redeem ransom with grain." Tywin's silence thickened until frogs ceased croaking. "My daughter sits queen, my grandson king. I need no compact." He stood, armor creaking like grinding gates. "I will starve Riverrun, slaughter Starks, leash kings in my hall. Then I will see who speaks of parchments." Bah! Ned rose, pain flicker across stern face. "Children, for your pride. The realm unites to stop wildfire. Do not become the fire others must drown." Tywin's eyes glinted like coins. "Tell Winterfell. Winter may come, but gold outlasts snow." He turned. Torchlight gilded his armor. Across river, war horns wailed. A drilling signal. Siga tightened. Jaime exhaled as father's boat pushed away. He chose Ziga. Ned clasped Lion's shoulder. "Then we choose endurance." And so the siege of Riverrun recommenced, but now a new banner flew upon its ramparts. The Stark direwolf quartered with Tully salmon, and beside them, a single golden lion turned away from its brethren, head bowed yet unbroken. Small folk called it the banner of the Pact. Within the walls, hunger loomed, but invention bred hope. Reach grain barges under Renley's flag slipped upriver at night, guided by Deva's smuggler friends. Inside hold-fast ovens, baked loaves, shaped as intertwined wolf and lion. Children learned to cheer both beasts. Sansa organized chansons to lift spirits. Arya drilled with spearshaft until calluses matched stable lads. Tyrion, meanwhile, juggled politics within King's Landing, forging a curious coalition of merchants, septons and dock gangs, who preferred bread to war. Varys whispers fanned dissent against Tywin's siege. Ballads praising Riverrun's Lion of Peace reached city taverns. And in Maegor's cellar, Cersei's staged execution plan soured when Baelish's orphan actor slipped away. Varys saw to that, forcing the queen to postpone spectacle and swallow the humiliation quietly. At Dragonstone, Melisandre looked into flames and saw a twisting shadow. A lion and wolf side by side casting a single larger shape. She told Stannis the Lord of Light favored their pact. Stannis' resolve settled like iron. He would sail to Blackwater Mouth with fleet of justice if Tywin breached Riverrun's walls. Thus days bled into weeks. Ziga lines held, barrages flung but seldom struck. Diplomats crept like cats across Night River, carrying offers, threats, pleas. Yet neither Ned nor Tywin relented. Until one moonless eve, thunder split the horizon. Real thunder, from a roiling charcoal sky driving cold rain. A breach in clouds revealed a sliver of red comet, still not faded, its tail a smoldering brand. Lightning hammered the siege towers, setting pitch-soaked timber ablaze. Flaming spars toppled onto supply wagons. Fire spread through Tywin's camp. Chaos erupted. Soldiers shouted, horses broke tethers, grain stores sparked. River wind fanned inferno. Trebuchets cracked. From Riverrun's walls, Ned watched orange tongues devour catapults that had once threatened his kin. He whispered a prayer. Rain deluged, hissing upon flames yet not enough to quench. Jaime stood beside him, cloak sodden, eyes wide, trapped between dread for father's men and relief for inner walls. In the maelstrom's pulse, horns called, retreat toward drear high ground. Ziga lines sagged. By dawn, half Tywin's supplies lay charred. Flooded trenches drowned more food. Marbrand urged fallback to Harrenhal. Kevan argued to hold. Tywin's face remained mask of iron, but as sunlight caught gray in his beard, even he sensed the gods' verdict. That afternoon, a single white flag crossed the tumblestone. Tywin seeking truce, provisionally. He would lift siege if Riverrun host allowed safe passage west. In return, he would sign the compact's grain clauses, subject to Grand Council. Jaime delivered the message, eyes shining through rain-washed soot. Ned gathered Robb, Brynden, Catelyn. Debate raged, but hunger and hope steered them. By night, they drafted new articles. Tywin to send tribute of grain to river villages, to withdraw to the Westerlands for one season, to attend council in King's Landing unarmed. If any clause broke, every banner re-raised. Tywin signed at dawn, quill scratching like reluctant claw. The ink scarcely dried before ravens took to wet skies. Weeks later, in the Sept of Baelor, beneath chilly shafts of autumn light, lords of 7 kingdoms, and several free cities' envoys, gathered as the compact received final blessing. Stannis, wearing austere black, spoke first, voice ringing. By law we preserve order, by justice we uncover truth. He presented parchment proving Joffrey's lineage false, signed by Pycelle under duress, by Varys, by an assemblage of bastards bearing Robert's features. Gasps rippled. Cersei's face blanched. Yet Regency's clause protected Boy King's life. He was quietly escorted to Storm's End to foster under Maester's eye until majority to choose his path. Cersei stepped back, but did not bend. When wildfire jars were wheeled from city under Stannis guard ships, She retreated to Casterly Rock for her health, escorted by a silent Tywin. Thus ended one reign of fear. The council crowned no new sovereign that day. Rather, it announced a triumvirate regency. Stannis as Lord Protector, Renley Steward of Grain and Fleet, and Ned Stark High Hand, representing the realms north and river. Tyrion confirmed as Master of Coin to pay debts, Davos as Master of Ships, Brynden as Commander of Host. Jaime Lannister, not Kingsguard nor traitor, but newly titled Legate of the Pact, was tasked with enforcing peace on roads. The Silent Sisters might have fainted at such paradox, but the small folk cheered. Bread wagons rolled, fires dimmed. The war that never quite birthed full roar sighed into uneasy lull. Yet Varys, climbing great septy steps as bells rang, whispered to himself, "When beasts share den, cubs may yet quarrel." And high above, on jagged parapet, a raven croaked thrice, black wings slicing cool air, a reminder that peace was a season, and seasons turn. At Winterfell, the first snows dusted crenellations as ravens brought news of budding peace. Maester Luwin read letters aloud to Bran while Rickon chased Shaggydog across Icy Yard. Bran closed his eyes, imagining father alive. Sisters safe, realm stitched. Yet in dreamtime that night, he saw a different vision. A weirwood in the wolf's wood bleeding not sap, but wildfire green. An ice dragon spiraling across pink dawn. A direwolf and a lion standing upon the wall, gazing north where shapes stirred beyond sight. He woke with heart pounding. "Summer," he whispered to his wolf slumbering at bedside. The direwolf lifted head, yellow gaze solemn. Seasons turn, Bran thought, and some storms brew beyond parchments. But for now, hearth fires crackled. Siblings soon to return, and hope, tender, perilous, kindled like a lantern warding the longest night. On the Roseruad, traveling singers composed a new lay. When lion laid shield, crossed the wolf's straining heart, and river met mountain, where red waters part. When stag bound its antlers to peace-welded crown, then swords learned a silence and parchments laid down. Yet ink is a dagger, and gold is a cage. So heed, gentle listener, this pact's fragile page. Sing soft of the season where harvest outshone steel. For winter still whispers and dragons yet feel. But know, in that silence, for one breath of years, the realm dared remember the taste of its tears. And each time the refrain met evening fires, small folk sat a little nearer, bowls steaming, children leaning into the hush. In the lull of hush, they might almost forget the creak of trebuchets, the hiss of wildfire, the shriek of dragons long dead or sleeping. They might imagine that even in Westeros, a vow could hold, a heart could heal, and the drums of peace could thrum louder, if only for one unlikely crimson-streaked season, than the rolling thunder of war.